Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Leanne Morton. I'm calling in from Denver, Colorado. I am an art therapist and mom of two and wife. And my story really starts in utero. I think I was born into a family of two teenage parents. And so I spent a lot of my life really questioning what my purpose was here and what I'm doing here on earth and if I'm even really meant to be here. Because it was sort of a rough start to life. I had really loving parents. They stayed together throughout my childhood. And then I went through a traumatic loss of my dad. So my dad was diagnosed with cancer when he was 26 years old. And it was a really quick progression. And so when I was young and going through this with my family, I was really kept in the dark about what was going on. And I think my parents were doing the best that they could. And of course, like any parent, we want to protect our kids. And what they didn't know then was that I did know what was going on, but there were things that were secretive and things that I just didn't understand and things that I think would have been more helpful for me if the adults in my life were talking about it. Excuse me. And I actually didn't get a chance to say goodbye to my dad when he passed away. I knew the night before that he was dying because my family sent me to my grandmother's house with my cousin. And I knew something was just off because she would never come to my grandma's with me. I would usually be there with my brother. So the next morning we got to my house and I knew that something had happened because there were a lot of people there and a lot of cars there. And so my experience of saying goodbye to my dad was after he was not alive anymore. And so that really, right? Like the history of being a part of my family is we didn't really talk about our emotions or what was going on. And so I had to do something in order to take care of my feelings and my emotions around the loss of my dad. And so I really turned to art, and that became my medicine and my way of healing myself. So any kind of creative thing that I could get my hands on, I would do that. And this sort of continued throughout my life. In college, I experienced sexual abuse. I also used art as a way of healing through that. I remember studying elementary education and, like just taking art classes because it was fun for me, and it was really healing. My friends were out partying and I would just sit in the ceramic studio for hours with my hands in the clay. And so fast forward to life now, and I remember this was after I had my second baby, and I remember sitting outside on my porch and, in the throes of postpartum anxiety and depression, and really not wanting to live. And in that moment, I decided that I needed to do something to help myself. And so I came back to art, the thing that always brought me back to myself, the thing that was my medicine. And, it was not medication that healed me, even though I know that is so important for some people and is so necessary. But it was the art. It was reminding myself of who I was, and bringing myself back to my own wisdom. And since then, I've also recognized how important it is, especially as a parent and as a mom, to be doing these types of activities, especially with art and creativity in community. And so it was a whole bunch of little things that added up to recovering from postpartum anxiety and depression. But it's always been the art that has brought me back. And now that I have two young ones, I see the wisdom there, right? Like, we're all born into the world creative. It's so natural for them to create and to see their world through exploration and creativity and art. And so it's in these moments when I remember that is the medicine, that is the wisdom. I think that is what leads me back to myself. It can be really hard to remember in this world that's so fast paced, and everything is sort of grabbing for our attention. It can be really difficult to slow down and remember the things that are important and the things that are going to really soothe us and bring us back to ourselves. And for me, that's always been my medicine. And I think it is there and just waiting for others to discover that and remember it too. It's just a matter of remembering and coming back to your own creative wisdom.
Wow. What an incredible journey you have been on. What is amazing is that you found something that could support you, guide you, help you navigate the space that you were in. And art and creativity is really an incredible medicine. You're right about that. But what did the postpartum anxiety feel like from the inside? And how did art help you find your way through it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It felt like I was treading water constantly,
Mhm.
and that I only had enough stamina to like hold my babies up out of the water, but my head, right? Like, but the rest of my body was just underwater all the
Mhm.
time. And it was such a transformation, and like an immediate transformation where everything shifted, that it was so difficult to gain my footing again.
Mm.
And when I remembered my past experiences with art and how it helped me sort of crawl out of these really painful experiences,
Mm.
I went back to it, right? And it wasn't anything profound. It's not like I was making elaborate paintings or like working on big projects. It was opening my art journal and making marks on the page. It was collaging bits and pieces when I had 5 minutes, when I had 10 minutes, like I'm sure a lot of moms can relate. When our babies are that young, we don't have a lot of time. And
Yeah.
I think that's the mentality a lot of us hold, is like, in order to be an artist or be creative, we have to have all of this time. And really, that's not what it was for me. It was
Mhm.
just allowing myself to have these brief moments in time where I could reconnect to what was important to me.
Now, many women struggle to feel creative. What would you say to mothers who believe that they are not artists?
Ooh, I just got the chills when you asked that question. Um, because it's really my belief that mothering is art. You know, like we
Mm.
can create life.
Yeah.
We have created life. And whether or not we've birthed our own babies, um, we have a womb where creation lives.
Mm.
And the way that we mother is an art form.
Yeah.
Even if we're not making something with art materials, we're creating our motherhoods. We're creating their childhoods. We're making, with every decision that we're making, with every activity that we do, with all the sculpting we're doing, by just, you know, getting our kids ready for the day or doing diaper changes, or even if our kids are older, like having conversations with them, being interested and curious in them, like that is all creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that we forget, though. We do forget that we have that creativity in us. And like you're saying, mothers are the most creative people on the planet because you have to come up with all kinds of things. And
Yeah.
so creativity can mean one thing to one person and something to someone else. Now, what is the role that community and connection play in your healing journey?
Yeah, I think it just begins with modern motherhood, and the ways that we're raising families now looks a lot differently than it used to,
Yes.
right? If we go back in time and remember how we used to raise our families, it was in community. And many of us are not doing it like that now. Either we've moved away from our families, or we live in our own homes without extended family. And even that can be a creative act in and of itself, is like creating our own communities in this modern world, however that looks. And so when we do find community, and when we are creating art together, just in my experience as an art therapist, and even, in my own communities where sometimes I'm leading workshops or attending workshops, something beautiful happens when a group of people get together and create together. I'm just remembering a workshop that I recently did, or even, like sometimes I'll go into hospitals and do a brief art experience with moms with their babies. And often when we get to the art portion and moms are starting to create on the page, the babies start to quiet. And, in psychology, we call this co-regulation. And so what's really happening in the room is, like, as mom's nervous system starts to become calm, then babies are borrowing their nervous system from their moms, and they're able to regulate too. So that's just one powerful thing that happens when we create art together, is we get to co-regulate with one another. What we often see too is like different themes popping up, and people making art about similar themes. And so then we get to talk about that. We get to experience that together and not feel so alone in our humanity. Like, we get to remember that how we are connected as humans.
That is just amazing. Now, what have been some of the most moving stories from women who found healing through art after hearing your message?
Oh, there's so many. One in particular I can think of is I often use what's called parts work in sessions with clients. And often when we can explore different emotions that are coming up, or different parts of ourselves that are coming up through the artwork, for example, like I'm thinking of one situation in particular where, this person was very, had a very, like, couldn't remember what life was like without anxiety, for example.
Right.
And she created the art. She created an example of her anxiety on the page. And it was this drawing of this like scary apparition, ghost-like figure. And she was in this long, dark hallway, just sort of like curled up in a ball. And she was able to express that this is how anxiety felt to her, that she was trapped in this hallway with like this scary monster with nowhere to escape.
Oh, wow.
And so when we get to visually see that and represent it, then we can do something with that rather than the anxiety just sort of having control over us.
That is so true. Now, can you describe a moment when your daughter reminded you of the natural creativity we're all born with?
Yeah, I really see it daily. I see it every day. I have 2 daughters, and they're 4 and 3. And they just love art. We make art every day together. And it doesn't matter what they create. They're always excited to show me what they created. They're always so proud of what they created, whether it's, just coloring in a coloring sheet, or we're doing something more involved. Like the other day we were doing nature rubbings. So we went outside and collected pieces of nature and put them under the page and colored on top of them. And you could see the veins of the leaves come out, and just the magic of it. And the awe. I mean, her eyes get big and she gets so excited. Mommy, can you see it? Mommy, the veins. And so there's just so much joy, and really seeing the world through their eyes and being able to like have a redo of like getting to explore the world again in this brand new way is really, really special. And a great reminder that like if we switch our mindset a little bit, and if we have a different perspective, that we can also do that. It just takes a little bit of awareness.
I love it. Now, what have been, I think I've asked that one. How can art therapy integrate into everyday life, even for those busy mothers or professionals?
Yeah. One of my favorite ways to integrate it is to create a traveling art kit. I have a little pouch that I take with me that is small enough to fit in my purse, or the diaper bag or the backpack, whatever you're carrying with you, with a little tiny sketchbook, some pens, and a little traveling watercolor set. You can make art at an appointment, at your kid's doctor's appointments. You can put some marks on the page when you're boiling water. You can, just like I was sort of saying at the beginning, even just taking a brief 5 minutes to either draw what you see, or draw how you're feeling, or pick a color that is related to how you're feeling that day, and making marks with that. It can be as simple as that.
I like that. So not forcing yourself to find specific time to do it, but if you have it on you in those brief moments when there's a 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, if you've got your kit with you, you will make use of it, right?
Right. I think the accessibility of having the art materials out where you can see them is really important if you wanted to make it a habit or a routine, or bringing it into your everyday life.
So what are 3 simple steps that you could give to somebody who wants to start using creativity as a healing tool?
First step would be awareness. So awareness can look so many different ways, but first of all, it's slowing down enough to be present just like our kiddos who are so they're just so present in the moment, right? That's what it takes, is your ability to observe would be the first step.
Okay.
And the second step would be a belief that you are inherently creative, and sort of reclaiming that for yourself, remembering that we were all born into the world creative. It's just a matter of remembering. And the third step would be, just like we talked about, simplicity. This is, I think we as humans just overcomplicate things a lot,
Yes.
especially when it comes to art, because we've put all these messages on what it means to be an artist and what your art needs to look like. And that it has to be beautiful, or it has to look a certain way. And that third step is about removing the pressure that you put on yourself, and
Yes.
just allowing whatever comes to flow naturally, and allowing your inner critic or your judgment part to like take a back seat while you're creating, because otherwise we'll never create if we're just worried about what it will look like.
Yeah, that is so true. So just letting go of the outcome and just let the creativity flow. So how did your experience change your understanding of integrity, humanity, and community, and the core values behind your work?
What was the first part of the question? I'm sorry.
I said, how did your experience change your understanding of integrity, humanity, and community, and the core
Yeah.
values that are behind your work?
Yeah. I think it took a while to get there, after
Mm.
experiencing a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. And luckily, I had a really supportive, like, family and other people in my world who helped raise me after my dad died. And there was a circle of women, older women, who I was really lucky to have met in my mid-20s, who supported me to like travel abroad and do the things that I really wanted to do. And I think being in that community really supported me to go for my dreams, and that my voice was important, and that what I had to say was important. And and just my own experience of being able to use this process of art making for my own healing. I think that process alone felt so integral to me, and felt like when I was doing that process, I was in my integrity, I was in my authenticity, and that awareness of, oh, I can support other people to do this same thing, and really help them come back to their own knowing, their own wisdom. Like, it's really this resource that many of us might not know is there.
Yeah, so true. Now let's end our interview with two last questions, or maybe three. The first one is, if you could go back and give your younger self advice, What three nuggets of wisdom could you share with her based on what life has taught you up until this point?
Yeah, I think the first would probably be about integrity and not worrying so much about other people's opinions and what other people think, because it's your life and you're the one who gets to live it. I think that would be my first. My second piece of advice would just be to remind her that she's loved and she's really meant to be here. I think, like I was saying earlier, I spent a lot of my life not even knowing if I deserved to be here. And now I really do know that I have a purpose here. And one more, is it?
Yeah, one more.
One more would be, just that piece around trust, like trusting my own intuition and trusting that, not everybody in the world is trustworthy. But there are going to be those people there that are going to lift you up. And those are the people that you walk away from having interactions with where you feel uplifted. Those are the people that you want to spend your time with.
I love that. Is there any question I should have asked you and I didn't?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think you really asked some great questions.
Okay, awesome. So I did a good job. Thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story with us today. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Leanne, thank you again for the interview.
Thank
Bye
you so
for
much
now.
for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.